Mo, February. Usually around this time, I'm enjoying the combine. I do like to watch it. I know some people don't like to watch it, but I do. Um, like I like to. I don't even like to watch just the 40. I like to watch the drills, like the shuttle drill, the cone drill. I do. I enjoy it. And then you get to see a lot of prospects. I do like to see. I like to watch the quarterbacks throwing. It's pretty good. That's what I like. So, with no NFL combine, how does this affect college players, Mo?
I think it affects them and it's sad why it affects them, but it affects them from a point of why coach. I think this is going to be the year that is more prevalent for coaches to watch film. Like a lot of them want to go to these combines, be like, oh, I feel like he's a 4-4 guy, but I need to see him at 4-3, or I feel like he's a 4-6 guy, I need to see him at 4-5, and all that stuff. But man, let's go back to the film. I mean, you can play, you can't. You know what I'm saying? And probably my growing up, I know it'd be easy to say Tom Brady, but that kind of my growing up, one of the biggest cases of that for the good side of watch film was Antoine Bowden. Antoine Bowden went to the combine, ran a 4.8. Got to the league, what he had, 200 yards receiving his first 2 games in the league, 2 or 3 games in the league. So either you can play this game or you can't. You know what I'm saying? But you look at a kid like, you look at kids we done seen before, like a Trent Richardson, like a DeMarcus Russell, all these people that wowed you, and got the combines and wowed you, and they got the league and they do nothing. Didn't do jack. You know what I'm saying? I bet you Cleveland would go back to this day and not draft Trent Richardson again. Third overall was that? They moved up to get him too. Who was that, third overall? I think they traded with the Colts and got him like third overall to draft him.
Yeah.
And I don't even think he made it through his first contract with them.
No.
So it's like
did not.
It's like, man, watch the film. I mean, I understand you want to see him in certain, you want to see their hip placements, you want to see their hip movements, and you want to see all this stuff, and that's all well and good. But either, man, watch the tape. Either they can play or they can't, and then you can set up a virtual workout. You can have people do the workout and show them do it virtually. You know what I'm saying? There's different ways around this. You know, you just gotta use your imagination.
Okay. Craig, what do you think? He doesn't like the combine.
I'm not a big off season. This is basketball. This is football. Whatever. I'm not a big summer league guy. I'm not a big combine guy. I don't care. To me, it doesn't like. It's either like most said. Either you can play or you can't. Like if you can't tell me, if you can't show on film like this quarterback can make this throw, or this receiver can make this catch, or this linebacker can get to the quarterback, or get in zone defense and make this tackle, or make this play. And defend or whatever. Like how does a combine to me? Now I'm going to be pretty much ignorant here because how does a combine tell you all of a sudden now this player was the 32nd overall pick and now he had a decent combine or better than average combine or whatever. Now all of a sudden he's moved up to 18. Why? If he was 32nd before and you saw him actually go out on the field and do what he did and he wasn't like spectacular to the point where he was a middle round draft pick. Well, all of a sudden now, because he ran a 4.4 or whatever, all of a sudden now he's an 18th pick or 16th pick. I never understood that. Like to me, it just doesn't make any sense. To me, I would just go based off of film. Like that to me is because you're going against actual players at football speed. You know what I'm saying? It's competition. You're in the combine. You're doing drills. You're doing routes, or you're running the 40. You're doing a vertical, whatever. You're doing the bench press. You're making throws. Like, is that going to make your stock that much better by doing that without competition in your face? And then you get in the game, and then like you can't do anything. All of a sudden now you're 21 years old, but you're going against grown men. Like, how does that make your draft stock any better? Like, there's been players who haven't even went to the combine, even though some of them were picked like in late rounds or they were picked in early rounds, whatever. They either did well or they didn't do well. Or you can make the case that players that do go to the combine, some do well, some don't. So it just depends. Like I said, I've never been a big combine guy. I just think film is to me is like the best is the best measuring stick, I guess, on how a player should be drafted or where a player should be drafted or if they can play or if they can't. I don't see what that. I don't know how long the combine is, how long your drills go. I don't see what that little bit of time in the combine or taking that test that you have to take where you get a score off of it. Like how does that actually make your stock go up and down? I don't understand. Like if you can burn a DB on a go route, then you can just burn a DB. Like you're fast enough to burn it, and you can catch the ball, or even make an adjustment on a poorly thrown ball. Like why do you have to go through the combine to decide all that? I don't know, man. Like I'm just not a big proponent. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't get it. I don't care about it. As long as my team has a draft pick or whatever, and they make a solid draft pick, then I'm okay with it. But I'm not gonna look at the combine at all and go through it and figure out, okay, this guy ran a 4.2. Wow, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care.
All right, Joe. What's your thoughts, Joe?
I'm not a big combine guy either. To Craig's point, I think it's kind of ridiculous. I used to coach youth football, and the first week of practice was always just shorts and a t-shirt, and then next week they were allowed to put pads on, all that kind of stuff. And every year, there'd be a couple kids who are just amazing, and then as soon as they put pads on, they can't move, they can't do anything. We used to call those guys t-shirt heroes. Because once they put the shoulder pads on, they couldn't quite do it. I think actual playing, the film itself is going to be a much more telling story. I think a lot of teams get themselves into trouble every year. You hear these players that they weren't high on, and then the combine happens, and they're like, "Oh, got to take this guy," and then he flames out. I think there's more of those stories than this unheard of guy killed it at the combine and ended up blowing up. So I'm not big on the combine. I think this is really going to hurt the players from smaller schools more than anything, because those are the players that kind of have a chance to pop for the first time. You're not going to watch anybody. Usually it's going to be the Power 5 conferences and then some of your major D2s, but some of these kids at a smaller school don't really have a chance. So it's going to be a tough year for them, especially with no off-season program on top of that. So even if they do get picked, the transition is going to be really hard.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Joe. So listen, just because I watch the combine don't mean I agree with the people. I do it for my own personal enjoyment. Nothing's really on. NBA is still in the slow. If anybody's familiar with the NBA, usually after the All-Star is when you start to see teams actually come together and play really well. But I do watch it, and it is for the smaller school guys. I think it does put, it just squanders a little bit of opportunity, because I do agree with, once again, game film matters. You can tell a guy can play if he can't, if you have game film. Just like Jimmy Johnson said on Colin Hayward, he was like, you don't even really need training camp. You can tell a guy can play. You can tell a guy from his tape. You can tell a guy the way he carries himself, the way that he studies film, the way he's prepared, the way he practices. They can tell. So that's just, the tape doesn't lie. Right. So, but I do think it's messed up for the smaller colleges. But this year it's going to be old school, because NFL coaches and pro player scouts are going to be forced to watch game film. They're going to be forced. And I remember they watched game film before, right? But they always like, oh, this guy's, at the combine, like Terrence Ross, right? He runs a 4. I think he broke the combine record, and he ended up being a top 10 pick for Cincinnati. And I think he has like 4 touchdowns in like 3 years. And he was a top 10 pick. So this would be very interesting. I want to see who actually gets drafted, because a lot of players opted out or they couldn't play this year in school. So they're going to have to go over not that this year's tape, last year's tape. So it's going to be very interesting because you have players like Pinwell and Trey Lance that didn't get to showcase. Trey Lance had one game, so you're going to have to go back to the film. You're going to have to really go back and probably talk to coaches and really scout. Like, it's going to be very interesting this year. They might change it going forward, but I don't see them changing it. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see this year. It's the draft this year is going to be really authentic because we're going to be able to tell who did their homework because of how guys are drafted, right? So we're going to be able to tell, to be like, all right, this guy they drafted was good 5 years later, or this guy they drafted was a bust. And we can't, there's no blame on a combine. It's like, you were not good at watching film, right? You drafted this player. Let's see how good you are at critiquing game film. So this is going to be a interesting year.